Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel, where we bring stories to life. Today, we have a wonderful tale about a farmer, a bit of magic, and a very important lesson. Imagine a scorching summer day. Farmer Gopi stands in his field, his heart as barren as the cracked earth beneath his feet. He'd toiled day and night, pouring his sweat and soul into the land, but nothing grew. The kingdom depended on its farmers, and Gopi felt the weight of his failure pressing down on him. How can I provide food for everyone? He worried, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Just as he was about to give up all hope, his shovel hit something hard with a loud clank. What was that? Curiosity sparked in his tired eyes. He dug around the object, his hands working quickly to unearth it. It was a pot, old and caked with dirt. He lifted it, his hopes rising, only to find it was completely empty. Sighing, he dropped his hoe into the pot and walked over to a nearby tree to rest in its shade, exhausted and disappointed. A short while later, Gopi returned to his work spot. He reached for his hoe, but stopped, his eyes widening in disbelief. The pot, which had held only a single hoe, was now overflowing with hundreds of them. "What is this?" he whispered, his heart pounding. Was he dreaming? He cautiously picked up his shovel and dropped it into the pot. Instantly, countless shovels appeared, spilling out onto the dusty ground. It was magic. The pot could multiply anything placed inside it. A huge grin spread across Gopi's face. He grabbed the pot and raced home, his mind buzzing with possibilities. He found an egg in his kitchen and carefully placed it inside. Poof! In a flash, the pot was brimming with dozens of fresh eggs. He tried an apple, then a loaf of bread, and each time the pot filled to the brim with more. Gopi was overjoyed. He finally had a way to provide for the kingdom, and maybe, just maybe, make a better life for himself. The next morning, Gopi set up a stall at the kingdom's market. His table was laden with fresh eggs, crisp apples, and warm bread. People flocked to his stall, amazed by the abundance and the low prices. Day after day, Gopi brought more goods. He experimented with vegetables, beans, and even clothes. Everything he put into the pot multiplied, and soon he became a very wealthy man. He had a fine house, new clothes, and never had to worry about an empty stomach again. But as Gopi's fortunes grew, so did the envy of the other sellers in the market. Their own stalls looked sparse next to his, and their customers dwindled. "It's not fair," they grumbled amongst themselves. "How can one man produce so much? He must be using some kind of trickery." Their whispers of jealousy soon reached the ears of the king's soldiers. The very next day, a soldier disguised as a commoner followed Gopi. He watched from a distance as Gopi prepared for the market. The soldier crept closer to Gopi's home and peeked through a window. He gasped at what he saw. Gopi placed a single, fluffy chick into the pot, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of chirping chicks filled the container. The magic was real. The soldier rushed back to the palace to report his incredible finding to the king. The king, a man whose greed was as vast as his kingdom, listened intently. His eyes gleamed with avarice. A pot that could create infinite wealth. He had to have it. "Bring this farmer and his magical pot to me at once." "E commanded." The soldiers stormed Gopi's home, seizing him and his precious pot and dragging them before the throne. The king snatched the pot from Gopi's hands, his fingers trembling with excitement. "So, this is the source of your endless fortune," he sneered, ignoring Gopi's pleas. He imagined mountains of gold, jewels beyond counting, an army that could multiply itself. Eager to see the magic for himself, the king leaned far over the rim of the pot, trying to peer into its mysterious depths. But in his haste, his foot slipped on the polished floor. He lost his balance and, with a terrified yelp, tumbled headfirst right into the pot. The palace was thrown into chaos. In an instant, hundreds of identical kings popped out of the pot, spilling into the throne room. Each one looked exactly like the real king, and each one shouted, "I am the king." They began arguing, shoving, and fighting, each trying to prove he was the one true ruler. The guards were baffled, unable to tell who was who. Amid the pandemonium, Gopi saw his chance. No one was paying any attention to him. He quietly crept forward, snatched his pot from the floor, and slipped out of the palace unnoticed. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him. Far away from the city and the madness he had inadvertently caused, he ran until he reached the edge of a high cliff, overlooking a deep ravine. Gopi looked down at the pot in his hands. It had brought him wealth, but it had also brought envy, greed, and chaos. He realized then that such power was too dangerous for anyone to possess. With a heavy heart but a clear mind, he lifted the pot high and threw it over the edge. It tumbled through the air before shattering into 1,000 tiny pieces on the rocks below, its magic vanishing forever. When Gopi returned to his farm, something miraculous had happened. The barren land was now green and fertile. Shoots were pushing up through the soil, promising a rich harvest. From that day on, Gopi worked his land with renewed spirit. He learned that true prosperity doesn't come from a magical shortcut, but from the honest sweat of one's brow and the dedication of a happy heart. And he lived the rest of his days as a contented and respected farmer. His wealth measured not in gold, but in the bountiful crops he grew with his own 2 hands. Thank you so much for joining us for this story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up. And do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.